let's try to get shockingly better at the most fundamental feature of the outward twisting wrist lock. This outward supination style twisting lock is so common in traditional martial arts that it gets drilled in the most useless way. Yeah, I said that. It's one of those things that, boy, people do it so much that they think they know it. So even when they're practicing really, really diligently and paying super close attention to the tiny little details, and really because of that typical method, they're practically guaranteeing a low level of skill growth. You're going to stagnate that way. But not you. You're here. And we're going to explore in a totally different way. So let's go. We have chapters and timestamps in the description below, so feel free to skip ahead to any part that you particularly want to watch. From the Japanese Shu Ha Ri model, we're going to use the ha, the breaking apart kind of studying, to open the potential for massive improvements in Gyokoryu. Particularly paying attention today to the Torite Kihon. Torite Kihon got the number 2. Again, for the Jinenkan folks, this will be numbers 3 and 4. Additionally, with specific kata from the Joryaku no Maki, things like Danshu and Sakanagare, or from the Churyaku no Maki, we know Da-shin is one of the first to use the same needs. Look, you'll see all sorts of places this is going to fit in with kata that you already know. And hey, you don't have to watch the first video in this set on how to best practice the first segment of the Gyokoryu Torite Kihon Gata. Obviously, we think that one has some useful insights, which is why we made that video public. So maybe consider giving that one some attention too. Look, well, I'll leave a link in the description. Speaking of which, there's a downloadable guide to using our favorite skill acquisition model to this whole segment of Gyokoryu. Get that one, and please open up the discussion in the comment section with anything you find useful, and especially if you think there's something we missed and should add. Let's work and all get better together. In the original version of this idea, let's call it phase 1, we basically learned to hang on for dear life while our training partner tried to push and pull and twist until their hand came free. And sometimes that's easy, and sometimes they just slipped out right away. And we threw out some ideas on how to use that as a setup for kata training. Dang, that really was a useful video, so be sure to check that one out after this one. Back to it. Okay, now we're on to phase 2. The person we're grabbing, for this purpose, is going to just accept that we have some wildly effective grip on their hand, and they're just not strong enough or fast enough or not whatever enough just to just rip it free. So instead, they're going to go ahead and leave that hand grabbed. They're going on the attack. They're aiming right at us, throwing bunches of punches our way. So if you're the person getting your hand grabbed, just floating up there and grabbing onto it in Omote Gyaku style, your one task has shifted, not just releasing anymore. Now all you want to do is touch the other person's shoulder. That's how we're going to keep this at full tilt while staying with full safety. Look, you and I know for a fact, if I'm grabbing your hand with all my might, but you can just tap me on the shoulder whenever you want, you could just as easily be punching straight at my face. So this way, much safer, the newest person in the room can do both sides of this training, and they won't get hurt themselves. And we know that a new person doesn't have as much control as somebody with more time and experience in training. So this way, substituting shoulder touches for face punches, look, they won't go wild and berserker, and they won't go wild and just hurt somebody else. Feel free to find all sorts of ways to use that little switcheroo there for other training. But I digress. Back to this drill. And the logistics on this can work however you like to run your training. You can, say, switch roles after 30 seconds, or switch every time they can make 3 successful shoulder touches. And that part of the planning is super flexible, and you can make it more or less intense or adjust it for your training group, your training partners. Okay, you're ready to make it better? Maybe we'll call this one phase 2.5. Now they can keep reaching for your shoulders if that's not overload, or just switch and add targets on the hip. It seems small, and maybe they just have to touch the hip if they're new. Or maybe they have to grab hold of the belt and hold it for some X number of seconds. This simple upgrade, we're looking at now Omote Gyaku counters that come from other kata. And we're adding the awareness of weapon retention. Because again, you and I both know, if I'm grabbing your hand with 100 success and can keep it, but you can reach in and snag the knife or the sword or other modern weapons that a person would be wearing on their belt line, I haven't done my job learning to use the kata to stay truly safe. This will solve that. Here we are again, using the pieces of the kata as is, and studying them in context, piece by piece, and learning them before anybody ever has to learn any of the kata. And more importantly, this kind of training makes them better at doing lots of techniques and written kata whenever they get around to learning those specific movement sequences, and when they have a name for it later. But wait, there's more. I bet you already have a sense of some other progressions. Please use them. Please share them. One that we like for phase 3 is to add incoming kicks. Now the person is still going to let you hold their hand, but their job, the new task, is to put their foot on a target, not a shoulder, probably a hip. This is just a safe way of simulating kicking. Okay, that was probably pretty obvious. You know why they're doing it that way. But you can get pretty specific with this. If they're already really skilled, maybe it only counts for the drill if they put their foot on the far hip, or on the near knee, or on the back of the ankle, or in a certain order, or 3 times on one before they can move on to getting 3 times on the other, all while under a time constraint, all without losing balance. If their partner can handle it, obviously you can mix in the shoulder touches, the hip touches, the foot on the far hip, the foot on the near side knee, keeping balance under time constraints. And there's a potential to have a lot going on, even in this one-sided version of this aggressor game. But let's say you have a training partner or a student who is just way, way better than some other training partner, and you want them to stay successfully challenged safely. Well, you can scale these pieces for them too. For example, you'd have a task requirement that while they're holding the hand, they're on the other side of it, holding the hand, they have to do X number of shoulder touches with either hand, or foot touches with either foot to any particular target in any particular order, without losing balance, without losing the hand grip, all under a time constraint to call it a win condition for their task. Requiring the hand holder to let go, touch the shoulder, reestablish the grip, reach out, touch the hip, reestablish the grip, put their foot on the far side hip, right? Maybe while defending against some of the same things. That's really difficult for a new person, but fits perfectly in line with some of the kata that we already require to do those things. If you've been around this stuff for a while, and as soon as you add those pieces to the puzzle, using the hand that you're gripping to stop them from touching your shoulders, and you're going to recognize those movements from Gyokoryu, Shinden Fudoryu, Takagi Yoshinryu. That's really darn cool. But the most exciting part for us is when new people do this practice first, and then later they learn the kata from those schools and those lineages, and they're already so darn good at them. We get super stoked about this stuff. And boy, watching people just get excited about the physical exploration and learning martial arts from hundreds of years ago in a foreign culture with sometimes hard to understand, definitely hard to pronounce terminology. And it's so rewarding and fun. We want to have everybody get on board and help each other grow with this thing. If you're already in this with us, thank you so much. If you haven't subscribed yet, please get there. Most importantly, join in the discussion in the comment section. Let's connect with each other about some killer new ideas. And really, we would love to film ourselves trying your ideas for a future video. Or maybe having a direct discussion on camera together about, whatever makes you get so jazzed about training. And please remember to download the PDF from the description below. Look, we're trying to make as many resources as we can so we can all help each other get better and make the most out of every training session. Thank you and see you on the mats.